Some legends rewrite the sound of their time, only to vanish before the echo fades. In this episode, we revisit the mysterious final night of a guitarist whose fire changed music forever. The Jimi Hendrix case opens. This is Memento Mori. Won't you spare me over another? Today, we're looking at a story that's as haunting as it is, well, famous. The final hours of James Marshall Jimi Hendrix. We're talking about an artist whose impact on rock music in the late 1960s it's almost impossible to overstate. He wasn't just a guitarist.
Oh, not at all. He was a sonic revolutionary. He completely changed the language of the instrument.
And that incredible talent was just extinguished so abruptly, so tragically. He died in London September 18th, 1970. He was only 27.
Right. And while the official record, legal finding, says it was an accidental overdose, the case is never really settled.
Not for a lot of people.
No. And so this deep dive is really about digging into the facts, the forensics, the inconsistencies in testimony that have fueled decades of suspicion. We're really focusing on that central mystery of how he could have ingested such a massive dose of sleeping pills.
It's a mission to try and, separate fact from fame and from tragedy. So, to start, let's set the scene. What was his life like in 1970? The sources, they really show us a man who was creatively at his peak, but personally, he was just crumbling.
He really was. By 1970, the original Experience band that was dissolving. He was touring under a new name, Cry of Love, and the schedule was just relentless, punishing.
So, globally famous, wealthy, but just totally drained.
Absolutely. And all that chaos from his professional life, it just bled right into his personal health. We know he struggled profoundly with substance dependency.
And it was more than that, right?
Oh, yeah. The most acute issue he was facing was severe, persistent insomnia. The stress was immense, and he was relying so heavily on pharmaceuticals just to shut his brain off. To get a few hours of sleep, he was a fragile genius stretched to the absolute limit.
It really paints a picture of someone who's incredibly isolated, even with an entire entourage around him. And his last few public performances, they kind of reflect that pressure.
They do.
His very last official gig was the Fame-Marne Festival in West Germany. That was on September 6th.
And that performance was, by all accounts, a disaster. There was heavy rain, logistical nightmares, and the audience was just disappointed, unruly even. He ended up walking off the stage early.
So he was just physically and emotionally exhausted by it all.
Completely. It was just a chaotic, frustrating end to his live career.
But then, just hours before he died, we get this one last little glimpse of the magic. On September 17th, he does this informal jam session at Ronnie Scott's Jazz Club in London.
With Eric Burdon's group, War.
It was like a final flash of that old fire right before it all went dark.
And he was in London that evening. The night of the 17th, which turned into the morning of the 18th, he spent with his girlfriend, a German painter named Monika Dannemann.
At her apartment. It was in the basement of the Samarkand Hotel in Notting Hill.
Exactly. And that apartment and Monika Dannemann, they become the focal point for all the confusion that followed.
Okay, so let's turn to the official facts. The things established by, law enforcement and the medical examiners at the time.
So Dannemann's story is that she woke up on the morning of September 18th and found Hendrix unresponsive in bed. When the case went to the London Coroner's Court, the official cause of death was ruled an accident.
An accident, specifically.
Asphyxiation due to barbiturate poisoning.
And the specifics of that poison, they're just terrifying. It was a drug called Vesparax, a sleeping pill that was incredibly powerful.
So powerful, it was banned in several countries. It was a German drug, and it belonged to Dannemann.
This wasn't some kind of recreational thing?
No, not at all. This was a heavy-duty pharmaceutical for severe sleep disorders. Vesparax is actually a combination of two different, very powerful barbiturates, and the autopsy results were just staggering. Forensic experts estimated that the equivalent of nine Vesparax pills were in his system.
9 pills. I can't wrap my head around that, especially for someone who reportedly didn't even know the drug.
It was estimated to be around 18 times the normal prescribed dose. 18. Even for someone who had a high tolerance for other drugs, this amount was acutely lethal. It essentially just paralyzed his involuntary systems.
And the mechanism of death was just simple and horrifying. He choked on his own vomit.
The overdose caused such a deep unconsciousness that he lost the reflex, the ability to clear his own airways.
But the court ruling, it had this really critical distinction. They delivered an open verdict.
And this is a really crucial legal point we need to stop and look at. It's the main reason this case is still so unsettled.
What does that mean exactly, an open verdict?
In the UK legal system, it means that while the cause of death is known, in this case, the asphyxiation, the manner of death.
Like, was it suicide, murder, or a straight-up accident?
Exactly. They couldn't conclusively determine that based on the evidence they had.
So right from the start, even the official finding was saying, we're not totally sure about this. They knew what killed him, but they couldn't confirm why he took that amount or the circumstances around it.
Precisely. That open verdict is basically the legal stamp that says something here does not add up. And the one person who held the key to all of that was Monika Dannemann.
Which brings us right to the source of this whole enduring mystery. The only witness. If you look at the source material, her story, it just keeps shifting. It's the engine that drives all the conspiracy theories that come later.
Her credibility was shot almost immediately. The biggest issue was the timeline. When did she actually call for help?
Initially, she told the police she found him and called for an ambulance around 11:00 a.m. But that story didn't last long.
Not at all. She then started moving the time back, claiming she realized he was in distress hours earlier, maybe around 7 a.m.
That 4-hour gap it's monumental with an overdose like this.
Monumental. If he was, as she later claimed, just breathing shallowly at 7 a.m., but she waited until 11 a.m. to call, that delay alone sealed his fate. She gave so many different explanations for it. She called a friend first, she panicked, she tried to revive him herself. It was all over the place.
And when you look at the forensic details, the delay is one huge problem, but the state of the apartment is another one. The paramedics who got there, they reported finding something really unusual.
Yes. They noted that the apartment and Hendrix himself were just surprisingly clean.
Which makes no sense.
None. Given the cause of death was choking on vomit, you'd expect a very messy scene. But the paramedics claimed that most of the vomit had been meticulously cleared away before the police or any forensic teams arrived.
That just screams that the scene was organized or staged maybe in those hours before she called for help. If you're trying to save someone's life, why are you taking time to clean the room?
It's a massive red flag. It points to maybe obstruction of justice or just panic leading to a cover-up. And then you have to circle back to the Vesparax itself.
Right. Why this drug and why 9 pills?
Hendrix usually used American or British sedatives. To take 9 pills of a powerful, unfamiliar German drug that belongs to your girlfriend. It's just so hard to explain that as a simple, careless accident.
And Dannemann, she spent the rest of her life fiercely defending that accident story. Her own death in 1996, which was ruled a suicide after a libel suit from another one of Jimi's ex-girlfriends, just adds this final, grim, unresolved chapter to her story. The only person who could explain that morning was gone.
So with all these inconsistencies, the delayed ambulance, the clean scene, the massive unprecedented drug dose, it's no surprise that a much darker theory started to take hold.
A theory that's tied to the music industry.
And it focuses squarely on his notoriously ruthless manager, a man named Mike Jeffery.
This theory involves a massive betrayal. And we didn't even hear the most explosive part of it until 2009. That's when Jimi Hendrix's former roadie, James Tappy Wright, published his memoir.
Rock Roadie, a bombshell of a book.
In it, he claims that Jeffery confessed to him decades earlier that he was responsible for Hendrix's death.
The motive here is just pure financial desperation and greed. Jeffery was reportedly drowning in debt, he was facing bankruptcy, and at the same time, Hendrix was planning to fire him.
So if Hendrix walks, Jeffery loses everything.
Everything. But, and this is the shocking part, the sources show Jeffery had taken out a massive $2 million life insurance policy on Jimi.
$2 million in 1970. That's an astronomical sum. We're talking tens of millions of dollars today. This wasn't a small exit fee for him. This was solvency.
He needed Hendrix dead to cash in that policy and save himself financially. It creates this powerful, very specific motive for murder.
And the method that Wright describes in his book, it's horrific. He claims Jeffery and some other guys forcibly entered the apartment, held Hendrix down, and made him take the overdose.
And then, in a devastating detail, he says they murdered him by forcing red wine down his throat.
This alleged method ties back, just chillingly, to the forensic record. This theory is supported by an alleged report from one of the ambulance attendants,
who claimed they found an unusually large amount of red wine in Hendrix's lungs, which would suggest he was drowned while he was unconscious.
We have to be really careful with the source material here, though.
We do. The official autopsy report did not formally confirm red wine in the lungs, but that claim from that one attendant It started circulating immediately, and it gave a powerful physical anchor to the murder theory.
It changes everything. If liquid was forced down the throat of an unconscious person, that aligns perfectly with Wright's confession.
The ultimate frustration, of course, is that we can never truly test that claim.
Yeah.
Mike Jeffery died in a plane crash in 1973.
So he was gone decades before Tappy Wright ever published his book. The main suspect died without ever having to answer for this alleged confession. So we're left with this huge contradiction, an official finding of accidental death. But then all these deeply troubling inconsistencies, backed by a credible financial motive and an alleged confession.
And that contradiction really defined the final outcome. After Wright's book came out in 2009, there was these intense calls from Hendrix's family and fans to officially reopen the case.
And what was the response from UK authorities?
In 2011, they officially declined. And their reasoning, while frustrating for a lot of people, was legally sound. The barriers to justice were just insurmountable.
Too much time had passed.
Way too much. First, the most critical physical evidence, the original forensic samples, things from the room, it was all long gone or compromised. And second, the key people who could confirm or deny anything, Dannemann and Jeffery, were both dead.
So even with this powerful news story from Wright, they basically concluded there wasn't enough concrete admissible evidence to actually prove a murder charge.
Exactly. They lacked the physical proof. But the most significant point of scientific doubt, it still remains. And it continues to lend weight to the murder theory.
Which is what?
How did Jimi Hendrix successfully ingest 9 Vesparax pills? A dose that big should have induced immediate violent vomiting, a rejection reflex that would have made consuming it all nearly impossible.
So the fact that the dose was fully absorbed?
It strongly implies he was either restrained or forced to take them.
And so his death secures his legacy in the 27 Club, right alongside Janis Joplin and Jim Morrison, people who also vanished at their peak. The Jimi Hendrix case remains one of pop culture's most enduring cold cases, just forever suspended between that ruling of an accident and the dark shadow of a high-stakes financial crime. We've really reviewed the sheer complexity of it all today. A medically clear cause of death asphyxiation that's just tangled up with a dubious witness, a massive financial motive, and a deathbed confession that can never be cross-examined. We know the devastating result of that final night, but the intent that remains locked in the shifting stories and the silenced voices of the dead. It makes you wonder, how often does the lure of fortune override the reverence for a true talent? Thank you for listening. To ensure you don't miss the next file in the Memento Mori collection, please like this video and subscribe. Until we meet again in the next dark story.